1 minute until showtime.
Okay.
You can take me off camera for the time being. Just go full screen. You do the intro. Oh, what's your password here?
Oh, it's right there on the. It's right in there. It's called "Be My Guest." It's right there on the board.
Okay, let me see here.
Okay, I gotta go live here right now in a minute. Capital B. You gotta look. It's on the board. Capital B E capital M Y capital G U E S T exclamation mark. Gotta go live.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh Polly, it's for your sake alone. I left my dear old father, my country and my home. I left my dear old mother to weep and to mourn. I am a rebel soldier and far from my home. It's grape shot and musket and the cannon lumber loud. There's many a mangled body, the blanket for their shroud. There's many a mangled body left on the fields alone. I am a rebel soldier and far from my home.
Okay, thanks for joining me here in the broadcast. I'm your host, James White, and as you can see, Dave vonKleist is leaving the room there to go in the other room to get on the show. We're just getting his laptop set up here, and we appreciate you joining us here on the broadcast on this 23rd day of December 2020, and we're coming to you live here from Kalispell, Montana, and we are on multiple different networks here. We're on a couple of Facebook channels, a couple of YouTube channels, Periscope, Podbean, Blog Talk, the whole deal. And we so much appreciate you joining us here today. And as you can see, I have the one and only Dave vonKleist is joining me here. He's next door in studio, and he's here. We're gonna break some things down about what's going on, and got some announcements on some things. And we're just delighted that you're able to join us here so close to the holidays. And Merry Christmas to you and yours. And without further delay, we're going to bring my friend and co-host here on the show, Dave vonKleist. On Dave, always good to see you, brother. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you and all the listeners out there. Hi, everybody.
Live radio, man. It's live radio, right? I mean, things that, we scramble to get stuff done at the end. And I can't tell you how many times I've just jumped in the seat at the last minute to get things going, man. Or something technical issue happens. But good to see you today. We got a little bit of a, it was a whiteout. I don't know where it was that you're at, but it was a whiteout here. I mean, I was in the studio, I think, yesterday doing a show, and I come outside, and it was fine. Nice before the show. Walked outside. It's a little cloudy, but it wasn't too bad. I literally do like an hour show or hour and a half show. I come outside, and it's like whiteout conditions. I mean, my car's covered with snow, everything. Did you get the same thing up there in the Fish?
Yeah, we did. It would look like a blizzard for about an hour. It was pretty intense, but it was nice. So wonderland weather,
Well, I'm just glad that we got a white Christmas because we sometimes, I don't know, you've been here in Montana for a few years as I have, and there's been years where we haven't had a white Christmas. And with the funny thing is here we are in the Rocky Mountains, and if you're not familiar, folks, with the climate and the weather up here, I mean, it can change like that, and it can get cold and it can get snowy, and if you get caught up in the higher elevations, not unprepared, I mean, it could be danger, it could be like literally life-threatening. But anyway, we're down here in the valley. We're nice and safe. Dave, what a time here. I mean, I guess we're nice and safe, right? I guess unless the Chi-Coms take over. I mean, they're trying to do it, man. That's for sure. On every single corner. So let me get I talk I babble every day here. So let's get your take on things, Dave. I don't think we've got your take. I mean, you were on a couple 3 weeks ago, I think, or maybe or so a month ago. But we got an hour and a half at least here today, and we can maybe open the phones up later, maybe. But anyway, give me a 30,000 foot view of what's going on here. This election thing is still dragging on. We hear that there's really people really close to the president that is not necessarily, wants them to concede, and the establishment, man, the establishment is widespread and the swamp is deep. Dave vonKleist, what say you about all this, my friend?
Well, it's more of the same, It's subterfuge, it's confusion, it's fear mongering. It's across the board, and it's on both sides of the political aisle. It's like I said, a standard operating procedure. This has been going on for year after year after year. And unfortunately, it serves no other purpose than to divide people. And I think that it's really important that we try to figure out what the common ground is between the liberals and the conservatives, because we have so much in common. We have, common values, but the media has done a marvelous job in dividing everybody. And I mean, if you were to take all of the liberals and put them over here, and all the conservatives and put them over here. Okay, now you red guys and you blue guys, okay. Do you like war? No. Do you like war? No. Okay, good. That's something we have in common. Do you like big pharma? No. Do you? No. Okay. How about the Federal Reserve? No. No. Okay, great. How about the military industrial complex? You like that? No. No. Okay, great. We have a lot in common. We are all fighting the same enemy. And the enemy has, the globalist agenda has been absolutely brilliant in dividing everybody. We have so much in common. And if people would realize that we have, it's sort of like Sun Tzu, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I mean, that's sort of where we're at. And if we're fighting amongst each other, we're not going to be able to focus in on who the real bad guys are. And we're all being manipulated. You conservatives, this divide between the conservatives and the liberals, the conservatives are frustrated beyond words with a lot of the liberals out there because they just want to wake them up. That's why they call them libtards. You're being a libtard, man. You're not paying attention. And the liberals they want to kill the conservatives for waking them up. And there is so much information, I got to backtrack a bit. I do have a history. For those of you who know me personally here in Montana, I'm just a regular guy. I play guitar. I sing at the local venues. I do the oldies. I like to hang out at the V and have a couple beers and play some pool. But there are a lot of you out there that may recall the rather long piece of political toilet paper that I have stuck to my shoe. I've been an activist since the early 90s. I began a talk radio career in 95. And like I said, I grew up in New York and Massachusetts, and I bounced around a lot. My dad was in the Air Force. But basically, I come from a liberal background. My mom had friends they were writers, they were musicians, they were in theater. When I was a young child, Mary Travers was my babysitter a few times. Mary from Peter, Paul, and Mary. Remember them? And then when I became a teenager, I was babysitting for the likes of Norman Mailer. I babysat for his ex-wife, Beverly, in Provincetown, Massachusetts. So, I grew up in the liberal atmosphere. And when John Lennon was assassinated, I was right there with everybody else. There was a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the absolute ban of all guns. And I was right there with everybody else. And then a few years later, I saw a bumper sticker, and it said, "Those who beat their guns into plows will plow for those who didn't." And that got me to thinking, and I started paying attention. And then I read a book. It was written by Fenton Bresler. It was called "Who Killed John Lennon?" And that was sort of an introduction from me into the idea of the MK Ultra program, the CIA mind control program. Of course, back then that was all conspiracy theory, but now everybody knows that MK Ultra is a very real project that was around in the 50s and 60s. And don't think that they stopped that. No, it's been going on for a long time. It's down to a science.
Well, and too, David, too, they also have infiltrated the media with the Project
Oh, yeah.
Mockingbird. So it almost is, it's almost trauma-based mind control is what they want to do. Like this
Yep.
whole thing with the masks and the and the
Yeah.
virus and everything. It's trauma-based mind control. They want to put you in a state of fear because then you're much more controllable when you're fearful. Because this is not. I didn't figure this out. The people way smarter than me for years have known this. Anyway, please
Yeah.
continue.
Well, I was going to say that's documented in the 70s, in the mid 70s, the church committees was talking about Operation Mockingbird, and they came right out and said that, yes, well, the CIA is in bed with the media. This has been going on for a long time. And anyway, like I said, I read this book, and then I started really paying attention, and I realized that, if I didn't start paying attention and being a grown-up, because at that point in my life as a young adult, I was a musician. I played in bands. My wife at the time was an artist, and we were involved in the arts. But then when I had a child, my daughter got to be about 7 or 8 years old, I realized I had to get serious. So that's why I started taking some courses at the community college. I took history, I took political science, and I started reading newspapers, listening to talk radio, shortwave radio. I cut my eye teeth listening to Bill Cooper, Chuck Harder, Tom Valentine. Some of the broadcasters that were on the air back in the 80s and 90s. And that inspired me to become a talk show host. And in 95, I went on the air in Waterbury, Connecticut on WATR, AM 1320, with the air name of Dave Riddell. The program director said, hey, look at your last name, vonKleist, is kind of unique, and it won't be too hard for somebody to look you up and harass you and your wife and child and stuff. So why don't you use an air name? So I said, okay. I used my grandmother's maiden name, Dave, and I was Dave Riddell on WATR AM 1320. And the show was a tremendous success. I was kicking butt in that market. And anyway, right when that happened, that was right around the time of the Oklahoma City bombing.
Right. Yep.
And while the rest of the country was being inundated with O.J. Simpson, every 15 minutes it was an O.J. update. O.J. Simpson, O.J. And I would go on the air and say, welcome to No-J Radio. We had 87 people, I think it was 87 people killed in the Oklahoma City bombing. And I was in touch with General Ben Parton. I was talking to Ted Gunderson, who I got to know quite well. He was a former FBI bureau chief in Houston, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. And they had labeled him a rogue agent because one of the things he was investigating was the child sex trafficking issue. And you can go back, look up things like Johnny Gosh, the Franklin cover-up, Boys Town. This is all common knowledge now. But again, 25 years ago, this was all conspiracy theory,
Or even Kathy O'Brien, if you're ready in the work by Kathy O'Brien, Transformation. Boy, I tell you, folks, if you haven't read that book, that book could change your life. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
It's
Transformation. Yep.
That's right. Transformation.
Yeah, I interviewed her a couple of times when I was doing the Power Hour. And so anyway, I was exposed to this. And again, I'm a regular guy. I'm a musician. I wasn't trained for this. I didn't go through the military. I didn't go through boot camp. I didn't understand anything about, espionage and subterfuge and all this other kind of, I'm a musician. I'm going, ha, 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 la, la. And all of a sudden I'm thrown into this situation here where I'm, investigating, the Oklahoma City bombing. And at the same time, my interests were also revolving around the first Gulf War. Because before I started working at WATR, I was a staff announcer for WTNH Channel 8 in Waterbury, in New Haven, Connecticut. And I was with them for about 7 years. And during that time, that was the first Gulf War with George Bush Sr. and Norman Schwarzkopf and Colin Powell and all that stuff. And one afternoon, I was in the studio at the TV station. Again, this is an ABC affiliate. And every afternoon at around 2 or 3 o'clock, they would be beaming back raw feeds from the Middle East for the newscast that was going to be on that night. So they would just send back raw footage, and we were monitoring this in the studio. Anyway, the cameras came on, and they were sending back what they call B-roll. There's no audio, it's just video. And on this one particular day, the monitors went on, and I saw our military dozers dozing bodies of women, children, you name it, into a common grave behind a backdrop of apartment buildings and playgrounds. And that night, Peter Jennings on World News Tonight, World News Tonight, more Americans get their news from ABC than any other source. And so Peter Jennings comes on, and he says, well, the bombings continued in Baghdad today, but of course, there were no civilian casualties because America's using smart bombs.
Right.
I said, what? Are you kidding me? I saw it with my own eyes, and that pissed me off. And that was in 91. And so that's what got my ball rolling, what got my wheels turning. And that's why I, started taking these courses in political science and history and blah, 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 and ended up doing a radio show in 95. And as I learned more, again, I'm just a regular guy, and all of a sudden I'm exposed to all this stuff about chemical weapons, biological weapons, experimental vaccines. And then there's the Oklahoma City bombing, which was a repository for a lot of the lawsuits that were going to come in from all these troops who were injured by their exposures.
Gulf War syndrome, the Gulf War syndrome.
Bingo,
files, right?
Bingo.
Yep.
Yes. And there were also files because back in the 80s, George Bush Sr. and Bill Clinton were working together out of Mena, Arkansas, in the drugs for guns operation that was going on there. And that's documented in a book called Compromised by Terry Reed. And I know Terry and his wife, Janice. Janice and my ex-wife, Joyce, were good friends. And so the point is that I started learning about all of this stuff and going down the rabbit hole, rubbing elbows with military people and elected officials, traveling all over the country. When Joyce and I, became the American Gulf War Veterans Association. And again, I'm a babe in the woods when it comes to this stuff,
right?
I suppose when I look back on this, it induced a form of PTSD. I mean, I wasn't ready for this. And then after we started the radio show, the Power Hour, then the 9/11 issue happened. We were on the air as it happened. And that opened up a whole new can of worms. People were sending me videos of the live footage that they had recorded on their VCRs. And I ended up with this box of videos of VCR tapes from all the different networks. But I also had WNEW, WPIX, WJAR, WOR. I mean, not WOR. What is it? I don't know, whatever, the local TV stations in New York and Connecticut and New Jersey. And that's how the first documentary ended up being made, because I realized, after GW was on TV a couple of weeks after the attack, and he said, we got to stop showing these terrible attacks on America no more because America needs time to heal. So they stopped showing any replays of the attack. I had a box. I got all the footage. I had no choice. I had to put out 9/11 in plain sight. Now, maybe I wasn't 100% correct in my assessment of what happened, but it raised enough questions that it went viral. It was all over the world on TV in Australia and Japan and Europe, but not here. No.
Well, no, like we brought up before, Dave, that was the first video that I had ever seen, and I was just like mouth agape when this happened and had to rewind it again. The flash right before the plane hit the building, there was a flash under the plane.
Right.
Now, if you look at the Nade brothers, or what they're called, when you remember the video where they're like, guys are like in the street, they're looking and they look up.
Yeah, the firefighters.
And then it goes right, and then it goes into the building. You don't see it very long. You see the very end of it. If they slow that down, there's a flash under that plane as well, brother. There's a flash under both of those planes. What's that flash? I think, as we talked before, I think that flash sent out some sort of a sonar or some sort of a signal that set some detonation off on the inside. Right?
Who knows?
That's one potential.
See, when you try to say what it was, then you dabble in conspiracy theory. And I didn't want to go there. And I was very careful when I was making that documentary not to make any definitive statements. I was asking questions. I show the picture, I show the video and say, hey, what's this? Why is this here? And there are some people that just don't want the questions asked, let alone answered.
Yep.
So from that point, the attacks started rolling in. And I was called everything. I was a skinhead. I was a Nazi. I was a Mossad agent. Go figure that one. Yeah, skinhead Mossad agent. Yeah, right. CIA mole. Yeah, right. But at the same time, I started getting contacted from people from back in the 90s, military people, intelligence people, who knew that I didn't fall off of a turnip truck.
Right.
And so they started contacting me, say, "Hey, Dave, you're asking some tough questions." And I said, "Yeah, I'm asking questions that people don't want asked. Would you like to talk about it?" And they said, "Yeah." So I talked to General Albert Stubblebine. I talked to Colonel George Nelson. I talked to Russ Wittenberg, who was a United Airlines pilot who normally flew the Route 175, but he was off that day. And so I talked to Glenn McDonald, who was an ABC news correspondent during the Vietnam years. I talked to a lot of different people, and that's where the second film, 9/11 Ripple Effect, came from. So anyway, well, I'm sort of getting way off track here. I just wanted to give you a little bit of a background here on what happened and how I ended up becoming a talk show host and doing the documentary films, and of course, writing the politically incorrect music that I've written. And I will tell you, when everything sort of fell apart in 2009, I'm not going to get into the details. I felt that the Power Hour was taking a different direction. It had turned into an infomercial, on a 5-day. I mean, we were on 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 3 hours every day, 15 hours of broadcasting. And I would say 3 out of those 5 days were turning into infomercials. We were losing sight of what the mission was. And that's where Joyce and I started to go this way. But anyway, in 2009, I ended up going off the air, not voluntarily. That's another story altogether. But I was done. I was burnt out. I had been doing this 24/7, 365, and I didn't want to be Dave vonKleist anymore. I didn't want to do it. No good deeds go unpunished, as they say. And so I was burnt out. And so it's been 11 years now since I was on the air. And I guess this is the time, with all the stuff that's happening now, especially this past year, a lot of my past is being thrown back at me. I've got people finding video footage of me talking about stuff 20 years ago, 24 years ago.
We're going to play that. We're going to play that footage.
Ago.
We're going to play that footage here in a minute. Matter of fact, let's do that now. Let's.
Well, let me set it up though.
Oh yeah, set it up. Go ahead. Of course.
All right. Okay. Back in the 90s, in the late 90s, after I left Connecticut and I went down to Texas, and Joyce and I were traveling all over the country, doing radio shows and presentations. We were speaking at American Legions, VFWs, community centers, churches, synagogues, theaters. Any place that people were willing to organize a meeting for the benefit of our veterans,
right?
Joyce and I would go. And that's what we were doing back in 96, 97, 98. And in 98, we were in Austin and invited to be on the Jeff Davis show. And so we did an interview, and you can find it. I didn't call it this. Somebody posted it on YouTube. And what does it say? It says Dave vonKleist, American folk hero, or something like that.
It said Dave vonKleist, American patriot folk hero, Jeff Davis.
I didn't call it that, but at the time, Joyce and I were kicking some serious tushy. Joyce was on with Art Bell on Coast to Coast, probably 24 times. And she was just tearing it up. I was the wind beneath her wings during those days. It's before the 9/11 thing and before the Power Hour radio show. And anyway, so we were in Austin, Texas, and I had just I put together my first album, which was called Will Someone Listen? And one of the songs on that was about Michael New. Now you can go to YouTube. All my music is on YouTube. It's free. I don't have anything to sell. I've got no video. I mean, and there are people selling my stuff out there. I don't know who they are, but you can buy, the documentary films, and you can buy the music, but it goes somewhere else. I don't get a penny out of all that. Never got a penny out of it in the first place. That's another reason, another story. But the issue here, and I think that this is pertinent, is that the stuff I was singing about 25 years ago in my first album, Will Someone Listen? The words, the lyrics of those songs apply more today than they did when I wrote them. And that's what's kind of scary. And that's why I was saying that this is a piece of political toilet paper stuck to my shoe, because now here we are in 2020, coming up on Christmas. We're looking at 21, and the stuff that I was screaming from the rooftops about 25 years ago is now in our face. And that's why the first album was called Will Someone Listen? People didn't want to listen then. I don't know if they want to listen now. And frankly, it doesn't make any difference. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them think. So the issue here right now with this global problem that we've got, this pandemic, I see this as a last-ditch Hail Mary attempt by the globalists to get their one world reset. They're talking about it openly now.
Sure.
They want to have their global government. Now, as I had mentioned, and again, I said this stuff 25 years ago, and you'll see it shortly in the clip that you're going to play. Eventually, humanity will have to evolve into some form of global governance. There's no doubt about that. It's going to happen sooner or later. The question is, whose government? What system are we going to be living under? And I guarantee you, if you're relying on the UN for those answers, you're going to go down the road to slavery. And this is what I was trying to warn people about. Now, I'm a peacenik, you know. I mean, I don't want war for anybody. I don't hate liberals, and I don't support either party. I'm well documented, and on the record for a long time for having nothing but condemnation for our two-party system. Okay, but however, what's happened here in this past few years has basically kicked off like I said, a Hail Mary last-ditch attempt by the globalists to get total control. And there's a couple of reasons why. And I have to back up to when I mentioned a little while ago that I had become good friends with Ted Gunderson, who had been investigating the international sex trafficking way back when. And the fact that it was not only being institutionalized, it was being industrialized.
CPS.
And this involves the most powerful people on the planet. This has got nothing to do whatsoever with Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal. This is a horrendous manifestation of the most evil that you could imagine. Okay, there's nothing I could think of that's more evil than sex trafficking children and using them for human sacrifices. I mean, this is something that the world leaders are well aware of because many of them are involved with it.
It's true, folks. It's
okay.
True.
I mean, there's no doubt about this. If you want to say conspiracy theory, raise your hand and slap yourself with it. This is serious stuff, folks. Now, you stop and think about it. Turn the clock back a year and a half before this pandemic. We had yellow vest protests going on in Italy, Spain, France, Germany, England, the Netherlands. There were millions of people protesting in Hong Kong.
Yep.
Now, world leaders enjoy their position. They like to be powerful and they want to maintain that power.
Yep.
And you've got millions of people all over the world that are out there protesting. Gosh, how do we get rid of all these protesters? What will we do? We've got to figure out how to stop this. And you know what? One of the reasons that people were out there were the fact that all of a sudden, since Trump came into office, we've known that there's been sex trafficking for decades. But all of a sudden, Harvey Weinstein gets busted. Jeffrey Epstein gets busted again. Then there's Ghislaine Maxwell. And then there's Prince Andrew.
NXIVM.
Bill Clinton.
NXIVM.
Okay. NXIVM. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
There's the Epstein flight logs to the Orgy Island. And this is implicating the most powerful people on the planet, not just Republicans and Democrats, but we're talking about kings, queens, emirs, princes all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they're all getting exposed. All of a sudden, this dark secret is becoming mainstream. How do they stop it? Now, let's put that on the burner here and think about this for a minute. Now, it's just now coming to light that the Democrats, well, and the Republicans, more Democrats these days than Republicans, but they have been in business, in bed with the Chinese.
Yep.
Back up a little bit. Let's go to the Bill Clinton administration. Remember Monica Lewinsky?
Yep.
Huh? Yeah, that juicy, sexy, scandalous story that American inquiring minds wanted to know about. Oh, that was so nasty. Yeah. So we're all focused in on Monica Lewinsky, that juicy story. But the real story was Chinagate. Clinton had been selling technology to the Chinese in return for campaign contributions. So this relationship between the Democratic Party and the Chinese goes way back. And it's been building ever since that time. So if the Democrats are so cozied up to the Chinese, let's apply that. Common sense, folks. Think outside of the box. Now, where did this coronavirus come from? China, Wuhan, and who helped to build those laboratories? Who has the patents on the coronavirus? Okay, who funded the research? Why is it that corona research was there was a moratorium? You couldn't do that in the United States.
Our friend from Windows, right? Wasn't it our friend from Windows?
Oh well, yeah, Bill Gates, but Fauci. Tony Fauci siphoned $4.5 million, or was it $3.5 million? Doesn't make any difference. He took money out of the NIH and used that to fund the research in China because we couldn't do it here in the United States. Now, that's back in like 14.
Coincidence.
So,
That's just a coincidence, Dave.
Yeah, right. So the point is, we have to ask the question: who benefits from a global pandemic? What was the result?
The establishment.
Well, yeah, number one, it got everybody off the streets. All those yellow vest protests sort of just went away. And all the protesters in Hong Kong went away. And all of a sudden, all of the focus on Epstein and Weinstein and sex trafficking went away. Now it's the pandemic. Get the vaccine. Wear a mask. Social distancing. You're all going to die. 300,000 people are dead now. Look at the numbers, folks. 87 to 90% of those tests are false positives.
It's true.
The regular flu has dropped down 94%. Heart attacks down. The people don't die of heart attack anymore, or diabetes, or stroke. All of those are being attributed for COVID-19.
David, when it reminded me, the Pizzagate thing that came around, and that was all. What'd they do? What'd they do for that? What'd they do? They had a false flag. This guy walks in with a gun and apparently is going to go there and upend all the underground trafficking things or something. I mean, what a total setup. Now, what that did was what you're talking about with these things, the Monica Lewinsky and this stuff. That's the shiny object. That's the shiny object they put out there, so people's attention are on that. Why the real crimes are going on back. The left hand's doing the real crimes, and the right hand's, giving you the baked bread. That's just how they operate. That's just their style. That's what they do.
That's exactly what they're doing. The right hand is going like this. It's going, COVID-19, vaccines, masks, COVID-19, BLM, Antifa, masks, right hand. Watch the right hand. What's the left hand doing? The left hand down here is pedogate.
Yeah.
So, and the thing is that depending upon how big the thing is that you're trying to hide, is a direct relation to how big the right hand and how much the right hand is going to shake in your face.
It's true.
So they're going like this, so you don't see what's going on under here. And I guarantee you, folks, it's the pedogate issue that is going to be the downfall of the deep state. We have to stay focused on that, because there is no greater evil. And this whole thing, this whole situation that we're in right now, not just here in the United States, but all over the world, this is a battle between good and evil, period. It's got nothing to do with Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative, That's the tool that they use to keep us divided. Like I said, the liberals don't want war, neither do the conservatives. They don't want big pharma. We don't want big pharma. Okay, we don't want all this global governance, at least not what they have in mind for global government. Now we come to the issue about the UN. Because with all the stuff that's going on right now here in the States, with this election fraud controversy that's going on, there's a possibility, and there are many people talking about, no matter what happens, if Biden gets put in there, the conservatives are going to lose their stuff. Okay, almost did that. But the point, and if Biden, I mean, if Trump gets in, the liberals are going to lose their stuff. Either way, we're going to see some sort of conflict going on. Could this be a window to bring in the UN troops?
They'd like to. There's talk
Okay, you
about
darn
that.
well you would like to. And again,
Sure.
now we get to the issue about the UN. Okay, the UN mandates and the UN this, the UN that. The UN is not your friend. The UN building in Manhattan was built on the old Rockefeller stockyards. So whose interests is the UN in? Okay,
Well,
I'll tell you what. Let's go back. Let's go back 22 years.
Let me take a quick
I was
break.
screaming from the rooftops way back when. People didn't listen. Maybe you'll listen now.
Let me take a quick break.
Yep.
Here, then we'll come back on the other side. And what you stated is so true. I've said on this broadcast numerous times, it was, is, and will always be about the children. That's the currency
Yes.
that the establishment uses. That's their currency. Is the children. It always has been. Well, for a long time anyway. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back here on the other side with my friend Dave vonKleist. Dave, why don't you give out any information for people before we go to break where people can find out more about you? I know you got a Facebook presence. I don't know if you're on Twitter too much, but I know you got your YouTube channel. And go ahead, let people know. Let people know where they can find me.
Again, I don't have anything to sell. Okay. I have a website, davevonKleist.com. It gives you a little bit of a history and some samples of my music and stuff like that. But I'm not in this for the money or the accolades. I mean, when I left the airwaves 11 years ago, if I was in this for the money and for the praise and all that stuff, I would have gone back out there. Okay. There are too many people involved in the truth movement, whether it be the 9/11 truth movement or whatever bowel movement you want to talk about. There are too many people that are in it for the wrong reasons. If you're in it for the money, if you're in it for the praise, then go home. You're doing it for the wrong reasons.
I appreciate you bringing that up right before I go to commercial. Thanks so much.
Okay.
No,
Cheers.
folks, we got to keep the lights on around here, right? Got to keep the lights on. So we're going to take a quick commercial break here. Dave, if you can hit the little disc there on the thing and cut the volume. We're back after these brief messages here on Critical Disclosure Radio. We may actually open the phones up. It'll be up to Dave. We'll see. A lot to talk about. We're back after these brief messages here. Yeah, Dave, if you could just mute it. Thanks, man. Hi, this video is brought to you by PatriotPrepared.com, where right now you can save $250 on each large package purchase, plus get free shipping to the continental United States. In these troubled times, it's not a bad idea to have some extra food storage available, and you can save big at Patriot Prepared right now. Go to PatriotPrepared.com, that's PatriotPrepared.com, and use the code TRUMP250 at checkout to receive your savings today.
Have you heard of Protovite? The most common health concern today is poor digestive health. Unlike ordinary supplements, Protovite is a liquid multi-nutrient formula with patent-pending absorption technology. A published scientific study proves that Protovite is nutrition that gets in 100% of the time. Protovite uses the highest quality ingredients to rapidly nourish every cell in your body.
My name is Sandra. 6 weeks ago, when I started taking Protovite, I was on 14 medications, from everything for blood pressure to fibromyalgia. In the first 10 days, my blood sugar dropped 50 points, and my fibromyalgia pain is gone. And so was 12 of the 14 medications that I was taking.
Protovite, nutrition that gets in. Buy Protovite now.
Thank you, Protovite, for giving my life back.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Work with your doctor when taking medications. Make Protovite part of your healthy lifestyle.
But I do know one thing. If you take away a people's ability to be free, they will rebel. Sooner or later, they will rebel. And with all this talk about this confrontation with people that are opposing the UN, I'd like to share something with you about the UN that many of you folks may not be aware of. The UN Charter doesn't grant one right to the people. If you get one, for those of you who stick up for the UN and believe in the UN and all that, go get a UN Charter and read it. Okay? Now, the UN Charter was written by Alger Hiss. Okay? He was a known communist. Now, for all the folks out there that still believe in the UN, I want to share something with you. This is the oath of allegiance to the UN. Now, remember, we've all been brought up at some point or another. I think we've all said the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the United States. You know, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. Now, I'm going to read to you the oath of allegiance to the UN Charter. And then I have a song for you. This is the oath of allegiance. I solemnly affirm to exercise in all loyalty, discretion, and conscience the functions entrusted to me as a member of the international service of the United Nations, to discharge those functions and to regulate my conduct with the interest of the United Nations only in view, and not to seek or accept instructions in respect to the performance of my duties from any government or other authority external to the organization of the United Nations. Now, it seems to me the two key points in here is that you're going to accept instructions with the United Nations only in view. That seems to me to be totally repugnant to the oath of allegiance to the United States Constitution, don't you? Seems to me that they cannot coexist, the UN Charter and the United States Constitution. So therefore, those of you who've pledged allegiance to the flag, and yet you're throwing your support behind the UN, you're not pledging your allegiance to the flag anymore, are you? You're turning your back on your country. And for those of you in public office that have taken an oath to support and defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic, you're a traitor, aren't you? Yeah, I think you are. And not too many people understand that. But there is one individual that did understand that. He's from the state of Texas. His name is Michael New. Many of you know who he is. He stood up against the United Nations, or not, shall I say, against an order from a commanding officer saying that he had to wear a uniform with a UN patch, a blue patch. And Michael had been homeschooled, and he knew very well that this type of a uniform was illegal. So he refused to wear it, and they court-martialed him. This song is dedicated to Michael New. A young man joined the service, thought he'd do his part. He loved his country under God, was true to his own heart. He knew he'd get an education, discipline, and growth. He had no hesitation when he gave his solemn oath. Yes, he gave a solemn oath. To my God and country, from now until the end, it's the Constitution I swear I will defend. Foreign or domestic, these last three words ring true. I'm defending my country. My name is Michael New. Yes, my name is Michael New. In uniform across the sea, on soil in foreign lands, with dedication, honesty, keen eyes and steady hands, fulfilling every duty with patriotic love, until the day an order came from officers above, from his officers above. The color of the Army is a military green, but the uniform they gave to him was like one he'd never seen. The shoulder bore a UN patch, a distinctive shade of blue. No oath to a charter, to my country I'll be true. To my country I'll be true. To my God and country, from now until the end, it's the Constitution I swear I will defend. Foreign or domestic, these last three words ring true. I'm defending my country. My name is Michael New. Yes, my name is Michael New. On Tuesday morn, October 10th, inspection of the men by Finland's General Ingstrom. He had to look again. Those traitorous eyes of officers stared down at Michael New. a single patch of green in an endless sea of blue. He was a single patch of green in an endless sea of blue. To my God and country, from now until the end, it's the Constitution I swear I will defend. Foreign or domestic, that final word rings true. Yes, I'll defend my country. My name is Michael New. To our God and country, from now until the end, it's the Constitution we swear we will defend. Foreign or domestic, that final word rings true. Yes, we'll defend our country just like Michael knew. America is watching, all eyes on Michael New. You set a fine example. God bless you. Michael New.
And folks, there's Dave vonKleist, the musician. That's the musician side of Dave vonKleist that is probably not well known by people. Dave, beautiful job, and you've been doing that for a long, long time. And you're certainly a multi-talented guy, that's for sure. And we do.
Man, that song is 25 years old. I wrote that 25 years ago this past October. When I was at WATR AM 1320 in Waterbury, I had Daniel New as a guest. He's Michael New's father. And I was so inspired by his story, and I was appalled with the idea that Michael had been court-martialed for standing up for the Constitution. It brought a tear to my eye. And the next day, I was, at the time, my day job, I was working carpentry, and a lyric just popped into my head, and I started writing it on a scrap piece of 2x4. And that's how that song got created. And so that evening when I went on the air at WATR, I called Daniel back. I said, Dan, I got something I want to give to you. And so I'd written the song, and I said, I want to give this to the Michael New Defense Fund. And anyway, so they started promoting it, and it was mentioned on the front page of the New York Times, actually.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah. But that was sort of the beginning of my politically incorrect, in-your-face, you lying SOB government music. And so I've got 3 albums of political music, and all you got to do is go to YouTube and type in my name, Dave vonKleist. But you won't even get to the Kleist part. Just go Dave Von, and it'll come right up. And you can listen to all that music, and it's out there for free. It's not about the money. It's not about the praise or the accolades. I'm not comfortable with that. But like I said, that's why I've been sort of radio silent for the past decade.
Yeah, but that doesn't change the fact that, I mean, people are independent. We don't have any in military industrial funding. We don't have any big network funding. I mean, seriously, the only way that an independent news organization can grow is from support of the listeners. I mean, and I think here's the thing. Here's the way I look at it. If you're going to pay $7 a month for cable, or $12 a month, or $15 a month for cable, throw $1 a month in or something, $2 a month in for someone that you like on a news program, or it doesn't even have to be me. It can be anybody. I mean, we all got to stick together, man, because if not, they're already censoring this. They're making it difficult for us to get on any platforms. They're hammering. I just found out my production software now. First, it was Twitter a couple of days ago, stopped working with Brave, the Brave browser. I use the Brave browser because of privacy. So Twitter stops working with it, and now my production software, it won't load up on a Brave browser now either. So they've locked that down because it's private, see, and they can't get, so I had to go through Google Chrome that's not private to open it up. So that's the thing that's the most difficult thing I think facing us right now, Dave, is the censorship. It doesn't matter. We can have the best information and the best deep undercover, contacts whose information is 100% accurate every time. But if they censor us from being able to put it out, what's the use? You know what I'm saying? I mean, it sucks.
Yeah, it does. It does. Well, you know what? Maybe now's the time to make that announcement, Jim. What do you say?
Well, we can make it. Well, Dave, I was kind of saying it's your first time back since 2009. So, Dave vonKleist, ladies and gentlemen, is coming back on the air after 11 years now. We're gonna be it'll be. Yeah,
I didn't know. I swore I would never do it again. Like I said, no good deeds go unpunished. And, you know, I've been there, done that, and I wore out an entire wardrobe of T-shirts. And I really didn't really want to go back on the air. But this past couple of years, with what I've seen, you know, and again, now I've got to back up a little bit. I, again, I'm well documented and on the record for not supporting either one of these two parties. It's two wings of the same bird, the U.S. corporate party. But what's happened in the past several years since Donald Trump was elected, at first, I was thinking, you know, I'll bet you that Hillary and Donald are tipping champagne glasses once a month, comparing notes and seeing how they can manipulate the American people and the rest of the world. And then I started watching what was going on with the advent of of Harvey Weinstein and Jeffrey Epstein and the exposure of the international pedophile sex trafficking networks. And my memory started popping in with the stuff that I had learned back in the 90s when I was friends with Ted Gunderson, and learning about all of this stuff that up to that point in time was just crazy conspiracy theory, but now it's turning into conspiracy fact. And when I realized what was going on, my memory was triggered. Back in 96, after I had left the Northeast and I went down to Texas, and Joyce and I were married, and we were doing the American Gulf War Veterans Association, Joyce was invited to testify before the Presidential Commission on Gulf War Syndrome. And this is in February of 96, and I was in San Antonio someplace. And so Joyce and I both went to this presidential commission. Now, you just heard the song about Michael New. The second song that I had written was written for the Gulf War veterans. It's called Where Are the Voices That Care? Because there was a big Hollywood production and all the rock stars and Hollywood stars got together and they did this song, Voices That Care. You can find that on YouTube also. Well, I was asking the question, where are the voices that care? Where are you now that these guys are sick and dying? You know, so I wrote this song, very hard-hitting song. So we go into this conference room where what is it? The commission was having their meetings, and they had given Joyce 10 minutes. So she stepped up there when they called her name. She stepped up there and she had all the Senate reports and congressional hearings and after action reports, because Joyce and I had been in the law libraries in Houston, pulling up these documents on microfiche, printing them out page by page by page. We're talking thousands of pages. And then we went to Staples and started mass duplication of them. And we were traveling all over the country with stacks of congressional records and Senate reports, and people wanted them. So this is how we were funding our effort. We were selling these things. We were selling them when we did the Power Hour. People were buying congressional records. Whoever would think about that? But the point is that she got up there and she said, "Thank you for inviting me to speak here." She said, "Senator so-and-so," and she held up the document. She says, "You sat on this panel. You know what's in these documents. I'm not going to waste your time or mine reviewing stuff that you already know." Bam! And she threw that one down. And she picked up this congressional record. "Congressman so-and-so, you sat in on this hearing. You know what's in these documents too. I'm not going to waste your time or mine rehashing stuff that you all already know." Bam, she threw that down. And she pointed at some military guys. She said, "Here's the after action reports from the first Gulf War. You've got copies of these. These are Schwarzkopf's, these are his documents. You know what's in here. I'm not going to waste your time or mine." Bam, she threw that down. She says, "I still got 7 minutes. I'm going to turn the rest of my time over to my husband, Dave vonKleist, and he's going to sing you a song." So I got up there. I went over. I got my guitar. And, of course, the Secret Service, they're talking in their sleeves, I got my guitar, and I got up there, and I just did it solo on the guitar. And because I wanted the lyric in the record. Because the lyric names, it calls it out exactly the way it is. And again, that song is called Where Are the Voices That Care? Anyway, as it turns out, that testimony, that lyric was deleted from the record.
Really?
And that's, and they didn't. Now, here's the kicker, though. Right after that, Joyce got a phone call. And she and I were invited to sit in on a meeting. And this is a couple of weeks after the presidential commission hearing. Anyway, so we were just going to sit on the sidelines. We got into, I forget, it was somewhere again in San Antonio, and there were about 30 or 40 people there. And this was some high-level military and intel people. And in a nutshell, what they talked about, they said, look, in review this past century, we've seen the industrialists and the bankers and the organized crime families all come together and work together to create a coup. They wanted to have a corporate United States of America.
Yep.
And it took them decades to get their ducks in a row. It took them a long time, but they pulled it off. Yes, they did. They got JFK taken out.
Yep.
And that's sort of like the official takeover. Since that time, we've been living under the corporate Borg, as I call it. And Eisenhower tried to warn everybody. He said, beware the military-industrial complex.
Yep.
Kennedy said he wanted to splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and cast them to the wind. He also signed an executive order issuing United States notes, which would have put the Federal Reserve out of business.
Yep.
He also warned us about secret societies. You can go and look up that speech. So the bottom line, they took JFK out, and basically since that time, we've been living under the United States of America Corporation. Okay. They said, look, it took them decades to pull this off. If we're going to take our country back, it's going to take us not weeks or months or years. It's going to take us decades. We're going to have to vet very deeply the people who we bring into this operation. Well, it's going to happen. It's going to take us a couple decades because we're the good guys. We are the white hats. That's what, when the bulb went off over my head about a year and a half ago, when I started hearing this talk about the white hats, I said, oh my God, was I privileged to sit in on one of the meetings back in '96 where they were basically formulating their plan? So the thing is, now I had to stop and take another look at what's going on with Donald Trump. Now, I don't agree with everything that he's doing. Okay, I don't agree with fracking. I don't agree with, maintaining the fossil fuels. We have to retool and get away from all of these energy companies that have controlled our lives. There's plenty of free energy out there. Tesla proved that. There's 0 point energy. There's geothermal. There's tidal. There's all these kinds of energy that we can get for free. But the Rockefeller mentality of competition is sin is why we're still under the thumb of the oil companies and the petro businesses. Okay. So point is though, is that since Trump has come into office, all of a sudden we're getting this exposure of the pedophile networks, and I'm all behind that. Okay. And like I said, I don't agree with everything that Trump is doing, but when that bulb went off and I realized that these guys are the good guys, the white hats, and I could see why they got Donald Trump to go in there, because he's not a politician. He's got his own money. He can't be bought. And yeah, he's got to play politics. He's got to give on this hand, and so he can get this, this hand to get some work done. And I think he's playing this thing brilliantly. I really do. And again, I was never a Trump supporter, and I'm like I said, I'm on the record. I don't support either party. But what's happened in these past few years under the Trump administration is unprecedented. And now, not only the American people, or mostly conservatives, the Democrats are sitting there with their eyes closed and their ears covered, going la 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 la. They don't want to hear it. La 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 la. They don't want to hear it. But the point is that the rest of the world sees what's going on. We're seeing people having Trump rallies in Taiwan.
Yeah, amongst other places.
I mean, they're all over the world. They're saying, "Go, Trump, go!" Yeah, we got to get rid of all of this corporate monster that's taken over the world, and that's exactly what's going on. And that's and so for that reason, and that reason alone, is why I cannot and will not support the Democratic Party. Okay, and like I said, I got some serious problems with most of the Republicans. Don't forget, I was fighting against George Bush Sr., with the Gulf War issue, and then with the 9/11 issue, George Bush Jr. I mean, how can anybody say that I'm a Republican or I support the Republican? No, I don't. I will not support evil. I will not support child sex trafficking. I will not support a corporate Borg that controls all of the media, all of the newspapers, all of the, textiles, communications, pharmaceuticals, agriculture. They're controlling everything. And that has got to stop. And that's why I see what's going on with Donald Trump right now and Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood. And I'm saying, yes, go do it, because this is our one and only chance to break the back of this global order. It's a worldwide awakening right now. I mean, here it is. It's December 23rd. We are now officially into the age of Aquarius. It's happened. It's a new age. There is a shift happening. There is a level of consciousness that's being opened up. The world is starting to see the subterfuge, the confusion, the absolute corruption, and mostly the evil. This is a battle between good and evil. It's not conservative or liberal. It's good versus evil.
Well, that brings us back to our announcement. That brings us back to our announcement.
Yeah.
So,
well, I swore I would never do it. When I left the airwaves in 2009, like I said, I didn't want to be Dave VonKleist anymore. I didn't want to be the patriotic balladeer, documentary producer, radio talk show host, and et cetera, because I don't, I'm not in it for the praise or the accolades. If I was, I would have gone right back on the air on another network. But the point is, though, with what's happening right now, what's happened in the past couple of years, and the fact that you just saw this old clip that was from 22 years ago, in the past several months, for some reason, out of nowhere, people are sending me clips, videos. I got a DVD a couple months ago of a presentation I gave at the conspiracy conference in Los Angeles back in, I think it was 2008 or 2009, I forget. But all this stuff is coming back. Like I said, this piece of toilet paper stuck to my shoe. And with what's going on in the world right now, we need some common sense. We need to find common ground between the right and the left, and we've got plenty of that, plenty of common ground. We don't want war. We don't want subterfuge. We don't want censorship. I don't care whether you're blue or red. It's got nothing to do with it. It's not right versus left. It's right versus wrong. And America and the rest of the world is seeing that. And that's why the world is screaming from the rooftops, go Trump. Because they see what he's doing. He's unmasking these monsters. And yeah, like I said, he's not doing everything that people would like him to do. I know that the liberals are pissed off at him for doing this or that. Okay, we'll be pissed off. That's okay. I'm kind of pissed off at him for a couple of other things too. But I will not support any party that has institutionalized sex trafficking, child sex trafficking, and Satan worship. And yes, again, if you think that that's a conspiracy theory, raise your hand and slap yourself real hard with it.
Well, that brings us back to our announcement. We haven't even
Oh,
made
yeah,
that
okay.
yet, for crying
Starting
out loud.
January 4th, ladies and gentlemen, broadcasting from the most confused, dumbed down, manipulated, and brainwashed nation on the face of the planet, bringing you news they hope and pray you never hear. I'm Dave VonKleist. And
I'm
you?
James White.
There you go. And this show is Critical Disclosure, starting on January 4th at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. We will be going on a bunch of different platforms. You can explain which platforms you got going, but there's a good buddy of mine back on the East Coast, Kevin Gallagher. And Kevin has put together a very interesting way of delivering programming. If you have a smartphone, whether it be an Android or an iPhone, if you have Alexa or if you have Siri, all you have to do is say, hey, Siri, go to Truth Be Told Radio. Bam! You'll be listening. It's as simple as that. And that network is being heard all over the world. So we're going to be going on with Truth Be Told Radio from 9 until 10 a.m., starting on January 4th. Now, James, you've got several other platforms that are going to be carrying not just that hour, but the second hour as well. A second hour. Oh, my. More truth.
We'll be on YouTube. Let me give you. We'll be on YouTube, 2 Facebook channels, Twitch, LinkedIn, Periscope, all those other places, and then Podbean, and also on Blog Talk Radio. We'll be on all those. We'll be able to take phone calls. for the whole 2 hours. And we're just going to, right now is the time, folks. I mean, I think that the mainstream media is about to, they're about to be gone because they're nothing but the propaganda arms for the globalists.
Yep.
And the globalists are going down. And when the globalists go down, the mainstream media, their propaganda arms going down as well. So there's going to be a vacuum for news. I mean, you already see it. I mean, people are searching for true news and for real stuff. So that's what we're going to try to do, is we're going to try to provide that. We're still going to be talking CPS and family court stuff. I know that's Dave has a heart for that as well. We're just going to be bringing all that news out. I'm sure we're going to have guests on at times. I mean, it's going to be pretty much all it is whatever. And I know, I don't want to speak for Dave, but for me, whatever is the best way to bring out truth and to get it out to the most people that understand it the most is what I'm down with. And I think, Dave, I would imagine you probably have that same thought, that same feeling. Yes.
Excuse me. Absolutely. Had to get some water. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, it was something that I didn't necessarily, wasn't on my to-do list. But given with what's going on in this country right now, I mean, here in the United States with this election fraud issue, we are on a tipping point. What's going to happen in the next few days? I mean, we're only, a day away from Christmas now. And after the first of the year, of course, they're calling for a huge gathering of people in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. Now, there are a lot of us that can't make that trip. I mean, we're up here in northwest Montana, and we're, that's a long ways away to go to D.C. And so for all of the people out there who are, would like to go to D.C., but you can't make the trip, go to your state capital. I will be in Helena, Montana on January 6th. And I would hope that many other people would travel from wherever they are to their state capital. If you're in New York and you can't make it, go to Albany. All right? Wherever you are, whatever state you're in, go to your state capital on January 6th. We have to have a show of numbers all over this country to demand that we have transparency and integrity in this election. And I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat, you got to be an absolute idiot or in denial to say that there is no election fraud. I mean, the mainstream networks are lying through their teeth over and over and over again. President-elect Biden. And he stands there and it says office of the president-elect. There is no office of president-elect. It's a fabrication. It's make-believe. It's imagination.
It's an illusion.
Okay? It really...
You want to take some phone calls?
They are just... Yeah, let's do some phone calls. Yeah, take a phone call. I don't care.
Well, we got 25 minutes left here on this particular show. This is a 90-minute show here. We got 23 minutes and something left, 22 minutes. So we'll take some phone calls if you want to call in and ask myself or Dave a question. The rules of the phone service are, the phone calls are, you don't have to necessarily agree with this at all, but just be respectful and no vulgarity. We're not really a vulgar show. So the call-in line is 515-602-9732, 515-602-9732. Now, David, my thought is there's a couple of key things that can bring the whole entire heaping pile of crap right down. First of all, it's the Oklahoma City bombing. If the real truth about that comes out, that could bring him down. 9/11, if the real truth about that comes out, that could certainly bring him down. But the thing that gets me is in 1993, if you remember that, right? When they did the Oklahoma when they did the Trade Center bombing, Rashad Salam apparently was the guy that they were trying to make the fall guy. If you remember, he kind of figured out that he was being set up as a patsy. Yeah. And when they went to charge him, his attorney came to court. I don't know if you saw it, with like a stack of documents. So these are all the recordings and documentation of them trying to set my client up, the FBI. And I don't think that guy ever spent a day in jail. And they tried to set him up for that 1993 bombing. You remember that, don't you, Dave?
Yes, I do. And I had long conversations with a good friend of mine by the name of William Rodriguez. Willie Rodriguez was the lead man, the lead janitor at the World Trade Center. And he worked there for like 20 years. He was working at the Trade Center during that period of time in the early 90s. He was there when that bombing happened. He was also at the Trade Center on the 9/11 attacks. And you can look him up. They call him the key master because he was one of 5 people in the entire Trade Center who had a master key to open every door. And when the attacks happened, William was running up and down the stairs with the firemen, unlocking doors, evacuating people out. And he testified before the 9/11 Commission about the explosion that happened in the basement before the plane hit above.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
So, I mean, so I'm not unfamiliar with this whole situation with the, the Trade Center 93, the Trade Center in 2001, of course, the Oklahoma City bombing. And that was one of the things that really threw me into the fray here. Just, and again, being a babe in the woods, never having been exposed to this level of espionage and skullduggery and controversy and false flags and stuff like that. I mean, my mind was blown.
Well, you remember the guy in Building 7. Building 7 went down, not hit by a plane. It fell into its own footprint, I think, at 5:23 p.m. There was a guy, he since has been killed. There was a guy, I want to say he was like a guard, but he was stepping over bodies. He said he was stepping over the bodies in Building 7 as he was trying to sweep the building, and there were already people laying dead on the floor in Building 7. And again, folks, Building 7 comes crashing down. Take a look at it. Just look on YouTube for Building 7, and then look at a Las Vegas hotel in the last 10 or 15 years that's been brought down, or 20 years, by controlled demolition. And put those side by side and look at Building 7 and look at any building. It doesn't have to be in Las Vegas, any building. And you tell me those are not identical maneuvers on both of those videos. Dave, I'll eat my hat. I'm telling you, that was a controlled demolition as much as you're wearing a red hoodie.
Yeah. Well, I recently, and this is one of the things that really triggered me a couple of weeks ago. I was listening to a radio interview, a podcast, and the guest, his name was Cody Snodgrass. And I don't know if you've heard that interview or not.
Yeah, I heard of him, yeah.
Yeah, he, according to him, he was approached to carry out the Oklahoma City bombing. They wanted him to plant the bombs, et cetera, et cetera. They offered him like $1 million. They're going to give him $500,000 to, in front, and another $500,000 afterwards. And so if you want to look up Cody Snodgrass, do a little research and listen to some of the interviews that he did. Because when he was on, I forget who the talk show host was, the Hagman Report, that's what it was, the Hagman Report. And when I listened to that, I was just mind blown, because he was mentioning people's names who I know. Okay, stuff that I was involved with 25 years ago. And this is one of the things that just all of a sudden a flood of memories started coming back to me that I tried to forget. Like I said, when I left, the airwaves in 2009, I didn't want to do this anymore. I wanted to forget everything. I just wanted to go back to being a musician and play the oldies and have fun. I mean, I burnt out. My head exploded.
Right.
So, but now I listened to this podcast with Cody Snodgrass, and all of a sudden, bam, this bulb goes off. Bam, this bulb goes off. Oh my God. I remember. And this is one of the reasons why I said, okay, yeah, I'll go back on the air. Because we just need some common sense. We need somebody out there. I mean, who are the broadcasters out there that are trying to bring people together? I don't know any. I mean, I know that we've got MSNBC and all the liberal broadcasters, and they're screaming at the conservatives, and you got Rachel Maddow, and she hates the right, and then of course you got your Sean Hannity's and your Rush Limbaugh's that are screaming about the libtards. Who is doing something to bring people together? I don't know of anybody. Yeah, it can be done. Like I said, we all have common enemies, and the common enemy is the huge corporate Borg that has taken over virtually every aspect of our lives. And it's that same corporate Borg that's funding all of these different groups to fight against each other. Look at BLM. Hey, you folks from BLM, you're being manipulated. Look where all your money and funding is coming from. And you think that you're fighting against the system? The system is paying your way. You're being used as a tool. I don't know why they don't see that. And there's people on the right that are being used as tools as well. Everybody's got to wake up.
I have no problem. I've talked before about how we need to come together and be unified. But to tell you the people I do not want to be unified with, I do not want to be unified with anybody that has knowingly trafficked and harmed children knowingly, who've done it knowingly.
Yeah.
I don't have any forgiveness for those people, man. Those
No,
people
no,
need to be executed. They're predators. That's what I think.
Absolutely.
If they did
Absolutely.
it knowingly, all the way, man. Otherwise, if you're just like the common person on the left that just hates Trump and hates conservatives, that's fine. Okay, I'm not really too concerned about that. I've been called worse for a long time. Let's just come together because, like you said, Dave, it's a common enemy, man. It's the divide and conquer strategy, and they're using multiple different overlays: the divide and conquer, the Hegelian dialectic, the problem reaction solution. As you know, this is one of their main programs that they run is problem reaction solution. I mean, because you know why they do it? Because it works. That's why.
That's
it works.
right.
Look at the mask.
Well, that's why it is. It's the right hand. BLM, Antifa, COVID-19, masks, social distancing, BLM. But over here is the pedo gate. And the pedo gate is the Achilles heel that will take down the entire deep state because they're all up to their freaking eyeballs in it. So if we can all come together, and I don't care if you're, if you're white, if you're black, if you're yellow, I don't care if you're brown, I don't care if you're a Christian, Jew, Muslim, Satanist, I don't think so. But you know what they say, that there are three great religions in this world. There's Catholic, the Christians, the Jews, and the Muslims. Okay, but wait a second. There's another one, the Luciferians, the Satanists, and that, I am afraid, is just as big, if not bigger, than these.
No, indeed.
Okay,
And there's many
it's
members.
Huge.
We got a call. This came in. Again, folks, just please remember the rules of the call queue. We'll bring the caller on here right now. And okay, caller, you're live on the air with Jim and Dave. Please state your first name and where you're calling from, please.
Jim and Dave, Tim, Colorado.
Hey.
FEMA Region 8.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Go ahead, man. Thanks for calling in. Colorado, way to go. Love Colorado. Great state. Beautiful state.
Yeah.
What you got there, Jim?
Well, I agree with everything you guys are saying, but I don't know where we're going or what we're supposed to do here. We're not ruled without law yet. The trouble is the law is backing up the wrong side. I mean, one of the Proud Boys, one of the Proud Boys that got run over, the guy that ran him over is not even being charged. So what are we supposed to do? I mean, we're in a bad situation. This is the end. I mean, it is good and evil.
Well, again, I'm sorry, I don't mean to jump in there. If you have an answer, Jim, you want to throw something in there?
Nope, you're good.
I was just going to say, I look at the situation with Epstein Island, and I realize when you look at the flight logs, now that's just a tip of the iceberg. That's, a tip of the iceberg. There are many, many people in all different, with the private sector, the public sector, whether they be in the Department of Justice and law enforcement, many people are being blackmailed because of the fact that, yes, so many of them have been brought in or sucked in to doing something that they know they shouldn't have done. Like I said, there's the sex trafficking. Children are being duct taped and stuck into boxes and shipped from China all over the world. And a lot of people know about it. People in the military, people in the Department of Justice, people in the FBI and the NSA, they've known this for a long time. There's a huge market. And when this starts to be exposed, I think you'll start to see real justice being served. So hopefully that might answer your question down there in Colorado. I mean, we have to fight with everything we've got to expose the sex trafficking, because that is what will bring them down. That's why they're doing all this stuff, so you don't see that part of it. Justice Roberts is in big trouble right now. Oh my God.
Well, what's your thoughts, caller? Do you think that we have the will? I mean, I know I see a lot of people going to rallies, a lot of people, in Colorado, as well. But that's a far cry from, having a revolutionary war type of scenario where, that's a bad scene. I mean, like taking to the streets and taking back and taking arms, which, listen, if we have no other choice, that's eventually, of course, what our founding fathers called for. But that's no good road to go. That's a very bad road for everybody. They win, I think, if that occurs. You think we have the will to do that, caller?
No, I think we're a minority. You know, there's a silent majority. There's a lot of silent people out there. But I talk to a lot of people. I can't wake anybody up. Nobody. My best friends. Nobody.
Yeah, it's sad.
I feel like we're just alone.
Yeah, well, you're not as alone as you think you are. There are people all over the world that are waking up to this horrendous situation that humanity is facing right now. And that's why people are saying, this is, for the Democratic Party right now, this is not, a win or lose. This is win or die. And it's not just, the Democrats, it's all of the people all over the world that are involved in this horrendous manifestation of pharmaceutical grade evil. And they are going to be exposed. So don't feel alone. There are a lot more of us out there every single day. I mean, there's a campaign called Walk Away. Have you heard about the Walk Away movement? People are discovering, some of the skullduggery that the Democrats, the Bill Clinton Foundation, Hillary, Epstein and Weinstein and Uma Abedin and Tony Podesta, they're all involved in this. And people are going, whoa, I don't want nothing to do with that. I'm not going to hang out with these Democrats if that's what they're into. And so they walk away. That's why they get the Walk Away campaign. So people are waking up all over the world, and you're seeing it. This is why they're having protests and all over Europe. And this is why they're having Trump rallies in other parts of the world. People in China are screaming if they want to see Trump get in there because they realize that their own government, the CCP, is corrupt as sin. So the world is waking up. They're just not getting the media attention. They're not getting the play. But that doesn't mean they're not there.
Caller, are you going to be going to D.C.? Are you going to be road tripping it to D.C. for the rally, the 6th of January?
That's too far for me.
How about putting something together there? What's the capital of Colorado? It's not. Denver's not the capital. Is
Denver.
Denver's the capital?
Denver.
You guys,
it's kind of blue, just so you know, too.
Yeah, well, that's okay. Like we talked about, we're going to have to eventually come together at some point. I mean, we can't beat each other over the head with a brick every day because somebody else is wearing a hat. I mean, that can't go on for very long. I mean, I'm saying we got to come to.
Yeah. Hey, wait a second. This whole thing about the election fraud, this has got nothing to do with whether you're red or blue.
It's true.
Okay, it's got nothing to do. If we are going to be a free country, if we're going to be the leader of the world in a democracy, and it's not a democracy, but if we're going to be the beacon of freedom for the rest of the world, we won't be if we allow election fraud. And that's what the issue here is. Okay, it just happens to be the Democrats in bed with the Chinese, and the Chinese got their fingers in the Dominion software.
Literally in bed with the Chinese. Like, no kidding.
Yeah, but it's been going on. I mentioned to you a little while ago that Bill Clinton, when he was president, when he was running, he was in bed with the Chinese selling them our technology for campaign contributions, and the cover story was Monica Lewinsky because that's what they needed over here. So I mean, this is standard operating procedure for many parts of the government, not just the Democrats, but many of the Republicans as well.
Caller.
So again, this is not about about liberal versus conservative, red versus blue. This is good versus evil. If you want to say this is a battle of biblical proportions, well, you wouldn't be too far off, on that.
Well, caller, what was your first name again, caller?
So my name's Tim, and I agree with everything that Dave is saying, and I'm laughing because it just makes me feel good. You're so positive. I tend to be fairly negative, so.
Well, don't let that negativity overcome you. There's a lot more of us out here every single day. People are waking up. So don't be afraid to go to Denver on January 6th. Get all your buddies. You're going to find out that there's a whole lot more of us than you think there are.
And remember,
there's more of us every single day.
Remember, Tim, what you have to do is just say, go to Truth Be Told Radio on your smartphone. It'll go right to it. When we start broadcasting, that's all you have to do. It'll start playing right away. And we'll put all that stuff on the website and give it links and everything and make that. We still got a couple weeks just about before we start, so not quite, but we're going to have time to put all together, all the social media, everything like that. Tim, we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump. Thanks for calling in. You're really kind of our first caller here.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Unofficial
Keep up the great work.
Thanks. Appreciate it, man. All right, there goes
Bang.
Tim.
Okay.
There goes Tim. Yeah, it's good. It's good. You know, I like callers. You know, I've been on multiple different shows, and some people are like, yeah, I don't really like callers. I'm like, I like callers as long as they're respectful. They don't have to agree with me, and they haven't before.
Yeah.
Just don't be abusive. That doesn't do anybody any good. That doesn't do anybody any good.
And it's always good to have a healthy disagreement.
Sure.
You know, I mean, we all, this is how we have a free exchange of ideas. And this is why it's so frustrating, with what's going on here in the United States between the conservatives and the liberals. The liberals, okay, for instance, we've heard over and over again that many of the universities might invite, a conservative speaker, like Candace Owens or somebody like that. And the student body and some of the professors shout them down. Now, they claim to be progressive, but how can you have progress if you can't have a healthy exchange of ideas? I mean, and again, I'm repeating myself, conservatives don't want to hurt the liberals. I mean, yeah, there's some of them that need to be bitch slapped. I'll say that, but I mean, the bottom line here is that they just want to educate them, bring themselves up to speed, understand what history is, take a look at these facts, get yourself in the know, otherwise that's why they call them libtards.
Yeah, that kills their narrative, Dave. That's the one thing that kills their entire narrative is truth.
Yeah.
Truth, it vanquishes all of their plans if we just get the truth out. That's the thing. The censorship, that's the thing that we have to overcome is that censorship. That's why you have to be on 19 different platforms so we can get the word out, right?
And it's not just the issue about truth. It's just a healthy exchange of ideas. We don't know what the truth is unless we can discuss it. That was one of the problems. You mentioned earlier about the 9/11 attack, the flash that happened, and not just with the first tower, but the second tower. That flash that happened, nobody's really been openly discussing that thing. That was something that I brought to the attention back in 04 when 9/11 in Plain Sight came out. And that was something that they didn't want to talk about. They said, if you don't know what it is, you shouldn't talk about it.
Yeah.
And I said, wait a second. How will we ever know what it is unless we talk about it?
Yeah. True.
So we have to have a healthy exchange of ideas. I won't be right 100% of the time, and neither will you. But the only way we're going to find out.
Wait a minute.
I was pointing to the listeners and callers out there, not you. You're always right, Jim.
No, man. No, that's far. No, believe me. Believe me. We all make our mistakes. But, when we do, it's all done. It's all done honestly. I mean, it's not a purpose to deceive. It's, that's the toughest thing, David. I've talked about this before. The hardest thing that I have to do is figure out what's fake and what's false and what true news is before I even open my mouth, because you can do 50 great stories with 50 great facts, and you do the one story and you get bogus facts, and everybody labels you fake news, and all the work you've done is just goes down the tube. I mean, I know that sounds like that's not true, folks, but it really kind of is. I mean, what happened? I must have hit the wrong button. That's what happens if you just So we're going to make mistakes. We're going to be, and you may not always agree with us. Maybe a lot of times you won't. Hey, but that's okay, right? Just call in and disagree with us. I mean, we're good with that.
Absolutely. We got any more callers in there? Look at that phone number.
No
back
more.
up.
We only got 2 minutes left. We only got 2 minutes left here for the show. So what we're going to do then is the format's going to be similar to what it is right now, but we're going to be broadcasting this. We're hoping to get this thing worked out where we can broadcast live rather than put our show in tape. That's what we're working to do, because we can take calls live. So we're working on that over the next 10 days or so. We'll be putting together a plan to broadcast and simulcast live here on multiple different programs. And also we'll be going back up to, we're going to have a Rumble account, and we're going to go into Gab, and we're going to do all those other social media things as well. Because, it's really about, this time right now, Dave, if things go on the way that I think they're going to be going, and the establishment is on its way out, there's going to be a whole lot of confused people that are just not going to know what the heck's going on, that are going to need some solid information. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and and also just to have some consolation, because we're going to have to hold each other's hands. It's going to be a very, very difficult couple of months coming up here. We don't know how the chips are going to fall. I mean, let's face it, and I don't want to sound like I'm overemphasizing, but the fate of the entire free world is in the balance right now, and I'm not exaggerating.
Yep.
I mean, where what happens here in the United States in the coming weeks is going to determine the fate of humanity.
Yep.
And if we allow these globalists to push these vaccines that are going to alter our DNA forever, that's corrupting the seed.
Yep.
I'm sorry, but I'm not going to get esoteric about it, but this is of
90 seconds.
So, I mean, people have to understand that if this is allowed to happen, if there is a God, he's going to be pissed off. He's going to say, wait a minute, what have you done?
We're just out of time, David. We're just out of time. We're running real here.
Right.
If you guys want to support
Pray
us,
hard, folks.
go
Pray
to
real hard.
criticaldisclosure.com. That's criticaldisclosure.com, northwestlibertynews.com. You can find Dave's stuff if you type in Dave vonKleist on YouTube or Northwest Liberty News on YouTube. We certainly do appreciate you looking in here. We got 1 minute left.
60 seconds.
Join us when we come back on the air. We may do another show before then, but we'll be back first week of January. Till next time, this is your host, James White, for Dave vonKleist, saying bye now.
Ten seconds.